The average business cannot survive a merchant cash advance. This is the reason why more times than not they go bankrupt. Some people have committed suicide as a result of this. Many people have lost their jobs. Anyone that's helping this business in any way, they all lost their olam haba. And on top of it, they're bringing a Holocaust to Misled. Rabbi, how could this be so wrong if the head rabbi of our community is investing in my business? Meaning he's an investor in cash advance. Anyone that could write a Teshuvah, that could prove what we wrote is wrong, meaning that this merchant cash advance is allowed for Jews, we'll give him $100,000. It's actually much worse that we're lending money with high interest to non-Jews, because the pretext of what Hitler used to make everyone follow him was the Jews charge high interest. Yes, there's a lot of bad things that are said about us that are not true, but this one is.
When does profit become exploitation? You know, a person says, I'm in business, I can do whatever I want. Who asked you to sign this? Okay, today our guest is Rabbi Yaron Reuven. We're going to talk about something you've been passionate about for years. You call it predator funding. A lot of people know it, and they call it cash advance or alternative lending. Everybody has a different name for it. But before we dive in deep to this important topic, let's get the viewers to get to know you.
Sure.
Let's get the viewers to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
So I will start with, where did you grow up?
I was born in Israel, in Netanya, in the hospital that the Klausenberg Rebbe built in Laniado.
Of course.
And we were there until I was 10 years old, and we came to the United States. We were a traditional family, but once we came to the U.S., we were completely secular. We went to public school. And I already started working as soon as we came to America. We all had to help. So I already was in business already at 10 years old, working at flea markets, then newspaper routes. When I was in high school, aside from doing well in school, I had 3 different jobs: clothing store, shoe store, and 2 newspaper routes. The newspaper routes, I'd give it to another kid to do the work, and I would collect the money. Then we went to a lot of other things. Eventually, I went into investment business in Wall Street when I was already 18, 19 years old. By the time I was 23, I made my first $1 million, and I decided to start my own firm. And within a relatively short period of time, the money got to a point of, significant, where a bad month would be $200,000-$300,000. The best month I had in my career was in May of 2006, where I made in 1 hour $1.6 million. And really one of my, aside from, training salespeople and being a salesperson myself and so on, my 2 main things that I did well was analyze businesses and, for investment purposes, which really was the big thing, and really, doing the research to find these gems. This is something that I spent nearly 20 years doing. But again, all this time, I was keeping, some basic mitzvot here and there, but I wasn't keeping Shabbat. I was intermarried. I was completely, disconnected to a certain extent.
I would like to jump into the cash advance business.
Sure.
I want to pick your brain when it comes to these things. When is helping someone becoming exploiting someone?
Anytime you know that they are going to put themselves, statistically speaking, in a position where they're unlikely to benefit from what you're providing them. Or they're going to lose from it. And you're really, it's a one-sided deal. So when it comes to business, every customer is not necessarily always right, but the point of why the customer is coming to you is because you provide something that is supposed to benefit them. Okay, that's why they're coming to you.
Right.
Had they known that you are in it just to destroy them, just to hurt them, just to take advantage of them, they would have never made themselves into a customer. It's in a halachic world, it's called mekach tahut. It's I wouldn't have come to you had I known that you're trying to kill me. I wouldn't have come to you had I known that you're selling poison. So The merchant cash advance business is known not just by me, it's known by the industry itself, by journalists, by the law itself, that it's a predatory lending, meaning that by default, the industry itself is inherently a predator for its customers, which are prey, because the rates of interest that they charge are so high that it is statistically improbable, to the point of impossible, for the customer to ever come ahead as a result of it. Now, when you have lending in itself is a necessary part of commerce, and it's available since the beginning of time. There's always been lending. Shlomo Melech got stuff for the Bet HaMikdash from Hiram Melech Tzur. He needed trees, and he gave him a city of gold as a result. So commerce is perfectly fine. Making money is perfectly fine. Being dishonest, being predatory is never fine. So when it comes to charging interest, there's a different deot according to the Chachamim of whether we're allowed to charge interest or not allowed to charge interest. We have a whole Teshuvah about it, there's different machloket among the Rishonim of whether you're allowed to charge interest or not to Goyim. To Jews, it's a known thing that we're not allowed. Clear. The Torah says that it's not allowed. But even to Goyim, there's a machloket among Chachamim of whether you're even allowed to charge interest. According to the Abarbanel, you're not allowed to charge interest to the Goyim, because the only ones that the Torah talks about to give interest to them is the Nochri, which is referring to the Canaanite nations. And the Edom and Ishmael are not considered Nochri. They're considered Achicha. So according to the Abarbanel, you're not even allowed to charge interest to the Goyim. There are other Chachamim that say that you can charge interest, but the point here is not the interest. If you have a home mortgage, you have a credit card, there's going to be interest. But what's the difference here? In all of those normal ways of getting a loan from a bank, from a mortgage, a credit card, the interest that they're allowed to charge you is still within the rates that it's probable that you'll be able to benefit despite the interest, because it's not going to kill your profit margins to such an extent or your investment to such an extent.
It still lets you live.
It's now when it comes to merchant cash advance, they're charging rates that are absurd, anywhere from 50 to 4,000%. Okay, a lot of people say, no, I only charge 50%. But then when you start analyzing it, but it's 50% for 3 months, which anyone that knows a little bit of finance knows that's not 50%. It's over 200%. It's not even 200%. It's not 50 times 4 because it's cumulative. So you're telling him he has to give you 50% on it. You gave him 50,000, he has to give you 75,000 after 3 months. That's not 50% interest. That's over 200% interest.
Wow.
So, but you're putting the guy in a situation where it is impossible for him to actually get ahead, because what ends up happening is that if you look at any business, and this is what I did for many years, I analyzed businesses. A normal business, even if he buys the goods for $1 and sells them for $10, his profit is not $9, because he has employees, he has insurance, he has all types of government issues, he has all types of things that he has to pay, all overhead. If it's a decent business, he's going to make 20-25% profit. So that means that if you're lending him money at 200% or even at 50%, let's say you're a discount merchant cash advance. You're the tzaddik in the cash advance. You're the guy that only charges 50% a year. He's still losing money. He's still never going to be able to get ahead. Why? Because it is impossible for a business to make that kind of money. And even if you want to say that they're like a software company, like a Palantir that makes 71% profit margins, that's not a normal scenario.
Right.
When we look at halacha and we look at at things that are based on the right hashkafa, you don't look at anomalies. You don't look at the one exceptional guy that borrowed money and 6 months later he tripled it. You look at the normalcy of how things work, and you realize that the average person that borrows money from merchant cash advance business ends up refinancing the loan between 3 to 5 times only because he can't pay it back.
Right.
And he just has to borrow more money just to be able to buy himself more time in the hopes that he wins the lotto, pretty much. And then he defaults. and then he goes bankrupt. And some of them have something called a COJ, a certificate of judgment, as part of the contract, where the cash advance company doesn't even have to sue him for the money. They literally win the lawsuit by default in 1 second. The second he misses the payment, in some states in the country, it's allowed for them to have a certificate of judgment where they take over his assets instantly without a lawsuit. Like even when you have a default in a mortgage in a house, if an unfortunate situation with a person that can't pay their mortgage,
Right.
it'll take the bank a year, 2 years, 3 years sometimes for them to eventually take the property. Here, it's not even a week. Here, he signed it as part of the paperwork without realizing what he's even signing, which is one of the halachic problems, and it's one of many. He signed something that says that he can't fight this in court. The second he defaults, they go to the court, they acquire his property. Now, their excuse is that, but certificate of judge, this COJ is not everywhere. Okay, but this is just one of the many problems, and there are places that it is.
Right.
The key here is that people don't realize that this predatory lending, that today they call merchant cash advance, is not a new thing. Shlomo HaMelech outlawed lending money to goyim with interest already 3,000 years ago. The main businesses that unfortunately were the most popular that the Jewish people were involved in before the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, before the pogroms in England in the 1100s, before the Spanish Inquisition, before the pogroms in Morocco, for the pogroms in Ukraine, before the Holocaust, every major disaster that the Jewish people have ever had, if you look at the number one business that the Jewish people were involved in, was high interest lending to the goyim.
Right.
Back then they called it different names. Today they call it merchant cash advance, alternative lending, all types of other funny names. At the end of the day, you could call it a tzara. It's a disaster for Am Yisrael to be involved in such a thing, and that's why many Chachamim have spoken against it over the years. For whatever reason or another, in our generation, you have very few people, myself, my Rav, that speak against it, and I think that the only reason why that most rabbis are not speaking about it is because they're not aware of what's actually happening. They're thinking that merchant cash advance may be like, you borrowed from a bank because the bank lends. This guy's lending. He just happens to make a higher commission. They don't realize that they're ripping people off. They don't realize that they're charging a guy interest that he can never pay back, that he has to win the lotto in order to break even.
Right. So what you're saying is that even if the people in the business, the funders, and the brokers are saying we're not lending to Jews, you're saying that even to the goyim, it's a problem.
Not only even to the goyim, it's worse because we're lending to the goyim. Because here, one of the problems that the Chachamim explain is that if a Jew does something dishonest to another Jew, what happens? Reuven does something wrong to Shimon. Shimon says Reuven is a bad guy. But when Reuven does something wrong to Jose, then guess what? Jose becomes an anti-Semite. He hates all the Jews. And that's why the Chachamim say this is Chilul Hashem. So Gnevat HaGoy, Gezel HaGoy, is worse than Gezel HaYehudi. So it's actually much worse that we're lending money with high interest to non-Jews, because it causes Chilul Hashem. And the Gemara in Masechet Yoma says the Chilul Hashem, en lo takana, it doesn't have a fix until a person dies, because it's such a big damage that the domino effect that happens from Chilul Hashem is unquantifiable. Because now this guy, he realized, if you look at any of the lawyers or podcasters or journalists that have from Bloomberg and other places that have covered this topic, every single time that they talk about it, they mention that the people behind it are Jews. It's like Hashem is putting his hand into this business to remind us, I'm watching. They're not mentioning, listen, there's a Chinese guy. They're not mentioning, oh yeah, there was a black guy in the office. They're not mentioning that the guy is Roman Catholic. No. But they're always mentioning that the Jews. Why? Because Hashem is watching. And he's telling us, listen, this is ugly. This is something that happened before. And last time it happened, it didn't end well. Because the pretext of what Hitler used to make everyone follow him was the Jews charge high interest. Yeah, of course there was non-Jews that were charging high interest. But Hashem didn't care about them doing that. He cared about us doing it, because that's what happened to us. Same thing with the Spanish Inquisition, same thing with the pogroms in different countries around the world. It got to such a horrible point in Morocco that the chief rabbi of Morocco in the 1800s went and spoke against these people to the king of Morocco, meaning he spoke against the Jewish people that are charging. He says, listen, these Jewish people that are charging high interest, your people, they're not part of us. They're doing something against our Torah. So what I'm doing when I'm sending this message to Misled, it's not to speak bad about Misled. It's to warn us from repeating the same mistakes that led to a disaster in the past. And this is why Rav Landau, alav shalom, said that anyone that lends money with high interest to the goyim has a din rodef. Okay, this is Gdol Ador. It's not Yaron Reuven. This is not the Baal Teshuvah from a few years ago that doesn't know anything. Okay, this is Gdolei Yisrael. If you look at the Teshuvah that we published, that my dear Rav wrote, and I helped to my capacity, it's a 17-page Teshuvah, has many sources, and we've showed this to many Chachamim, even Chachamim that thought that it's allowed initially. After they read the Teshuvah, without exception, everyone said, I can't believe I didn't know this. Everyone said, you're 100% right. No one has come and said, listen, I don't agree. Because we've even offered publicly for the last 7 or 8 years, anyone that could write a Teshuvah, that could prove what we wrote is wrong, meaning that this merchant cash advance is allowed for Jews, we'll give them $100,000. Mm-hmm. And people tried. But they didn't even, after the first line, they said, listen, I can't disprove this. You're bringing Chachmei Yisrael from the last couple of thousand years. So the problem is that either the leaders of our generation are not aware of what's actually happening in this business, that they're actually charging these rates. They're thinking it's just like a normal bank. Or the more unfortunate situation, which is some people are just being blinded by the money. Yeah. I'm talking about rabbis. There are certain rabbis that are investing in this business.
You're saying a lot of tzedukahs, a lot of money are coming back from these kind of
well, that's the thing. I spoke to a lot of people in the industry, brokers in the business, a couple of guys that started companies. Baruch Hashem, I've succeeded in helping a few people leave the business, but unfortunately not enough. And many times you see that the people tell me, yeah, but I spoke to my rabbi about it, and he said it's okay. I said, okay, well, send your rabbi the Teshuvah. Send him this Teshuvah. He'll read it, and if he read the Teshuvah, he agreed. Most of the time, they don't want to read it. Why? Because they want to assume this is okay. Why? Because the guy that their student just funded their next yeshiva, just gave them a donation, just a quick one, without just to get an aliyah for $150,000. An aliyah on a Tuesday. $150,000 because all of a sudden he likes the rabbi so much. Mm-hmm. So some people are turning a blind eye to it, but in some cases it's becoming even worse. Where I've heard one particular person came to me just a few weeks ago. Rabbi, how could this be so wrong if the head rabbi of our community, which I'm not going to mention, the head rabbi of our community is investing in my business? Meaning he's an investor in cash advance. Mm-hmm. And he's not the only one. So the average guy, the average Jew, doesn't know the halacha. Okay, listen, we don't know everything. I don't know everything. But if you're a Talmid Chacham, if you're a rabbi of a community, if in some cases a dayan, there's one particular case, there's a dayan, and you're investing in this business, you're a bigger criminal than the people that are running this industry. Why? Because you're obligated to know more than everybody else. So that's the thing. Unfortunately, even the Torah says that unfortunately money makes people blind. Yeah. So this is happening. So it's not a small problem. It's not a small problem. And anyone that looks into the industry knows, or will get to know, that it's inherently evil. And one of the biggest issues that I see in it is that in every industry, there's a recruiting office, there's a recruiting team to get the next generation of producers, of salespeople. Okay, so if you're a law firm, you want to go to best colleges, you want to go to the Ivy League schools to get the next generation of lawyers. You always want to get the best in every industry. you want if you want your technology company, you want to go to MIT. If you're a lawyer, you want to. In this business, where is the recruiting happening? Where are they recruiting? Are they going to Yale? No. Are they going to Harvard? No. Are they going to Wharton? No. You know where they're going to? Yeshiva. They're going to Yeshiva, and they're telling the Bachurim, listen, you've been learning Gemara, good for you. You know how to say Shema Yisrael, Chazaku Baruch. But really, do you have any life skills? No. How are you going to pay $1,500, $2,000 tuition for the kids you don't even have yet? Okay, how are you going to pay tuition? How are you going to buy a house? Any Jewish community you want to live in, you have to pay $1 million for a house. Yeah. How are you going to pay for that exactly? You don't have any skills. What are you going to tell them? Rashi commentary? What are you going to tell them? You're going to tell them that Abaye, what are you going to say? So they scare them that apparently Hashem doesn't run the world. And tell them, listen, but if you want, come work for us. You don't need any skills. You don't need any talents. You don't even need to know how to chase clients. Why? Because they call you. It's not like the investment world where you have to go chase clients and hopefully you'll find somebody that wants to invest with you. Mm-hmm. Here, the clients call you. Here, they don't give you anything. You're giving them. So it's the easiest thing in the world. You don't need any skills. You don't need to know how to do anything. You could literally be almost a mute and still make a sale. And yes, you'll make 10, 15% commission. What's 10, 50%? You lend the guy $1 million, you're going to make $100,000 or more. And that's just as a broker. So the kid is listening to it. I'm 18 years old. I have no talents. I have no abilities. I need the money. I know how much my father is struggling or my cousin is struggling. So yeah, let me go into this. Now, initially, you could give them the excuse that, okay, this 18-year-old Bachur doesn't know anything, doesn't know it's inherently evil, doesn't know how much he's going to hurt people because he's 18. Most kids that are 18 don't know much. But you can't use that excuse a year later. Why? Because after a year happened, those first few months, he eventually closed a few deals. And those few deals that he closed in the first few months, they're already crying to him, what did you do to me? What did you put me into after a year? So he already knows he's bankrupting somebody. So after a year, you can't say, I didn't know I was doing bad. Right. You can't use that excuse anymore. But what keeps him in? By then he's already used to making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month. The Yetzer Hara already has the venom inside him, and now you're going to get him out. Wow. So unfortunately, this is something that is targeting our Bachurim. That's why in every single special interview, article that they write about this industry, they always mention, and by the way, they were Jewish. They don't mention anyone that was a Christian. They don't mention anyone that was Muslim. They don't mention anyone by different colors or race. But they always mention that there's a Jew there. Why? It has nothing to do with the article. But apparently, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to know, hey, my dear children, I'm watching.
But let me talk to you from a different angle. This is the small business owner who is struggling, who can't make payroll, and the banks refuse him. Yeah. The banks don't want to give him anything. What is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to file bankruptcy?
To give him a loan is not helping him. All you're doing is the way that the merchant cash advance present themselves is misleading to begin with, because they present themselves as they are buying his receivables. Okay. Now, if you're really buying somebody's receivables, you have to analyze the assets, you have to analyze the clients, but they don't do any of that. All they analyze is how much money he has in the bank. Why do they care so much about how much money in the bank if they're buying the receivables? Because they're trying to analyze how much lifetime he has left for this business. So long as he has 3 months worth of lifetime in the business, they'll lend him money. They don't care about his business. They don't care about his payroll. They analyze how much blood can I suck out of him until he dies anyway. So it has nothing to do with helping him. It's a predatory business for a reason. It's called predatory lending for a reason. It's a predator. Predator looks for prey. So they don't care about helping him payroll. So the guy that can't make his payroll, that's his problem. Them lending him money is not helping him. It's magnifying the problem.
It's not a solution, is what you're saying.
It's not. It's actually a more difficult death. Right. Because if he doesn't borrow from them, he still has other options. He could still borrow from friends and family. He could still fire some people. He still has other solutions where that he could buy himself more time to give himself a better opportunity to turn things around. But this fast forwards his demise. This doesn't delay his demise. This expedites it. No. It just looks like help.
Yeah, but do they know what they're signing? Do you feel that it's misleading completely? Or they're so desperate that they don't care? They just are attached to the business emotionally, or they feel like their whole life is falling apart.
I've been building businesses since I was 10 years old. I've been almost 40 years, and I could tell you that as much as a person can love their business, there's always going to be a red line. There's always going to be a red line.
Of how much he wants to kill himself.
Of desperation. Yes, put everything into it, but there's always a red line.
Right.
At the same token, a person that could start a business is also a person that can understand how, what's really his risk reward on things. So when they're signing these documents, there's no way that they ever really understand what they're signing, because no one would sign this if they knew what's going to be the end.
Right. So walk us through, let's say someone wants $500,000.
Right.
What is he signing over there? How does the interest work? And how does he look 6 months down the road? He was struggling from
so
to begin with. It's no secret.
He's already being misled from day one, because 9 out of 10 times the person that he's talking to, he's not giving him his real name. So Shalom is now, Steve. Okay. So already we're starting with, different, he's not talking to the right people. And then sometimes Shalom pretends to be 2 or 3 people. He pretends to be Steve, but then he pretends to be Steve's supervisor, Joe. Why? Because the whole thing is a lie from the beginning. I have training recordings that people gave me that they got working in this business. Literally, they teach the people to lie from the first second. Mm-hmm. Secondly, on the paperwork, many times you'll find something where they say something like 9% recovery rate. Now, this 9% recovery rate is to mislead the customer to think that, number one, they're a company that's trying to collect receivables, like they present themselves, which is not. And number two, to present as if it's 9% rate. It's not 9% rate. You know what that 9% is worth? 0. It's the same thing as putting a picture of Pikachu on the paperwork. That 9% has no value whatsoever. That number, that recovery rate, is not even advertising. It's literally worthless. It's just purely to mislead. And it's very common on those paperworks. Secondly, when they do present the rate, at some point or another, they show it as a daily rate, which the average person does not understand, even if he's a businessman, does not understand, because no bank tells you, we're going to charge you 0.2% per day. No, they tell you, we'll charge you 14% a year, we'll charge you 28% a year if it's a credit card. That's what, they give you annual percent rate. That's the normal thing that you have to do by law. But the merchant cash advance business misleads by saying, no, we're going to charge you 1.6%. So even the guy looks 1.6, okay, so 1.6%, that's pretty good rate. Wow, it's even better than my bank. Or in the best case scenario, the guy says, you know what? Oh, so 1.6, so if I times that by 12, so yeah, it's more or less like a credit card. He doesn't realize that 1.6 rate is almost 50% a month. So he has no concept of what he's paying. When does he realize it? After he signs the paperwork, after he signs his business away pretty much. It's a death sentence to the business. Then he wakes up and he realizes, wait, they just drafted money. They took money out of my account for the rate. I just borrowed the money yesterday. 2 days later, they're already taking money out. And guess what? The next day they're taking money out. In many cases, they're taking money out of the account every day, which is poison to any normal business. Because your main thing in any business that creates value for business is cash flow. When you're sucking out all the cash flow out of the business, you're killing the business.
You're out.
So now they're taking money every day, and he can't stop it. He complained on all he wants. Listen, mister, this is what you signed. Oh, you didn't know? Oh, okay, sorry. Next time, read the paperwork. So now they're starting to take money out of his account every month. He realizes he put himself into a jam, but he's still optimistic because the guy promises him that, listen, don't worry, this is just our first deal to get our feet wet, to get to know you. He's still pretending to be his friend now. We just lent you $50,000. You have to give us $75,000 in a couple of months. That's just to get to know you. But don't worry, after you do this right, we're going to give you we're going to refinance the loan to give you a small business loan. Like small business loans, like the ones that the government helps with, and the ones that you only pay 8% on. This is all fairy tale. This will never happen. In 3 months from now, when he doesn't have enough, or he even does have enough, they say, listen, we can't do this small bit, but if I give you another $300,000 of merchant cash, and you pay back $450,000 in a couple of months, then we'll get you that $3 million that you told me you wanted. Then we'll give you that. So the whole thing is smoke and mirrors, and all they're doing is trying to refinance him, to give him a bigger loan by selling him a bigger dream that one day he's going to get that multi-million-dollar investment that will never happen, because they're just simply sucking more and more that they can out of his business, and Hashem help him if his business is not growing at least 50% a year, because at that point the demise is even faster. So the average business cannot survive a merchant cash advance. This is the reason why more times than not they go bankrupt. More times than not they end up in lawsuits. More times than not this ends up destroying jobs, destroying the guy's life. Some people have committed suicide as a result of this. Many people have lost their jobs, and one of the big things that's going to make this whole thing blow up is when the government wakes up out of the government of America and other countries this is happening in, but mainly America it's hurting, realizes that the economy is being destroyed silently as a result of this business, because the number one thing that moves an economy, any economy, is not the Coca-Colas and the Pepsis and the Apples of the world. It's the small business. So when you are systematically destroying small businesses in every opportunity that you can, you're destroying the economy. And this is exactly what they're doing. This is what they did in previous generations. And this is what's happening. And it's unfortunate that there's not enough rabbinical leaders, leaders of any kind in the Jewish community speaking against this business. And I think I'm giving everyone the kaf zchut that they're not aware of how evil this is, but it's becoming harder and harder for me to believe that because of what I see, because of what I hear. And unfortunately, it's unbearable.
Does profit in a business have a cap? Like, when does profit become exploitation? A person says, I'm in business, I can do whatever I want. Who asked you to sign this? I'm introducing to you something. Mm-hmm. The profit is there a cap on profit?
There's no cap. There's no cap on a profit. The only time, where they talk about cap on profits is if you could buy something from a Jew versus buying from a Gentile, you should pay up to 16% more to do business with a Jew over using a Gentile just to help our own brothers and things of that nature. But that's the only time in halacha that I know of that there's ever a cap in such a thing. No, there's no problem. You could buy something for a penny and sell it for $1 million as long as that's what people want to buy. No problem. But this has nothing to do with profit. This has to do with do with manipulating people to do things that are against their own interest.
When they're desperate.
Again, even the desperate person, had he known that this is his death sentence, he wouldn't do it. So this is when we look at the halacha aspect of it, we realize that this is similar to when you analyze gambling, for example. The reason why Chachamim say that when one person gambles with another person, he's not, and even though both of them agree to the rules, let's say they're playing poker,
right?
Okay, and Reuven beats Shimon. If Reuven takes the money from Shimon, now according to the rules, he's allowed to. Yeah. But the reality is, Shimon would have never played had he known he was going to lose. He only agreed to the rules because he assumed he's going to win.
Right.
Okay, so this is something that's applied when you read the Teshuvah that we published. This is the same concept here. This is when a person agreed to the rules of this, it's not because he thought this is what you're going to do to him. He thought it's going to be very, very different. Right. So this is also one of the many halachic reasons of why this business is forbidden for Jews, to do with goyim, needless to say with Jews. But aside from all of this, it's simply hurting people.
Like, what is the wisdom behind the halacha of Ribbit?
Well, the big thing about Ribbit, the neshech, is compared to in the Torah to the venom of a snake, to a bite of a snake that has venom in it. And with the neshech is one of the things what in the beginning you don't realize what happened. Sometimes Chachamim say that the guy that's giving alva, that's giving a loan, appears like he's helping, but in reality he's going to hurt the person. Right. So the same thing with venom. Venom doesn't kill right away. It takes time, but eventually it kills. So the key thing with Ribbit in general, the Torah speaks against it both for Jews and Gentiles in many different ways. And in fact, even according to the opinion of those that say that charging Ribbit at all is allowed, they said it's still a cursed business that anyone that deals with it would eventually lose everything. You know, the one that benefits the most, the one that makes the most out of charging interest, will end up giving all of that money to someone that helps the poor. You know, and they give different examples of how Jewish people that actually benefited from charging interest ended up losing all the money to some king because this king gave a lot of money to poor people. So there's a lot of different examples of how this thing is inherently evil according to the Torah. Furthermore, one of the things that a person has to understand is that Am Yisrael is known for having rachamim. Okay, Am Yisrael is known for having mercy. That's one of the signs of a Jew. That's one of the things that distinguishes us from among the nations. When you're in a business and you know that your customer is a victim, he doesn't realize it yet. He doesn't realize he's prey. He thinks he's a hero right now because he found a solution. He found the Joe from Brooklyn, the Joe from Oklahoma, wherever you told him that you are. He thinks he found a solution. He doesn't realize he just became a victim. So when you already know that your average customer is going to go bankrupt, is going to lose as a result of your transaction, where's the mercy? Where is the Jewish mercy? That's the one thing that baffles my mind. What happened to the Jewish heart that's supposed to be merciful? Now, of course, everyone is going to calm their conscience by saying, yeah, but I'm giving that tzedakah to the shul. I'm using that money
to put bread on the table.
Yeah, I'm providing for my family. According to the Gemara, the whole issue of Ribbit starts off with, who are we allowed to charge Ribbit? Say, if you're going to charge the Goyim, you're not allowed to charge the Jews, you charge the Goyim. Okay. But one of the things that they're saying is that, yeah, but is everyone allowed to do this? No. The Gemara in Masech Bava Metzia says, if you're going to charge Ribbit, you have to be very careful not to put yourself in a situation where you're constantly next to the nations because you're going to be influenced by them. So therefore, if you are an average person, you're only allowed to do the business with them, with the nations, if there's no other business available to you, because the nations are forbidding us to work, which is what happened in past generations. We weren't allowed to be in other industries, so we were forced, if you will, to be in this business. But you're only allowed to make enough money to survive. Meaning to pay your basic minimum expenses, not to buy a $3 million house in the Hamptons, right? Not to get a private jet just to go to a basketball game. That is never allowed. That, according to all opinions, is never allowed. If you're in a business, you're allowed to do it only to make enough money to survive. But if you want to prosper, you have to be a Talmid Chacham. Talmid Chacham, we're not worried about him being influenced by the nations because he's a Talmid Chacham. He learns Torah all day. Right. So now the Ran, one of the Rishonim, comes and says, we're in his generation already. How is it that our entire generation of financiers, of people that lend money, have suddenly become, everybody's a Talmid Chacham, where they're just doing this all the time? He says, we're not all Talmid Chachamim. So how is it that everybody's allowing themselves to be in the lending business? This is already hundreds of years ago. So in our generation, it's even, we've degraded. We haven't become better than the Rishonim. Right. For people to simply allow themselves to be in this business, it's only because no one is saying anything that is supposed to. And unfortunately, those that have gone to the point where they don't even care anymore, right, this message is not going to help them until they wake up. They have their own personal
What you're saying is that it's missing an awareness and an education about the subject.
It's missing to such a point where people don't even realize it exists. Some people will rationalize it by saying, "Yeah, but it's only charging the goyim, the interest. Yeah. What do I care?" Yeah. Like I said, hurting the goyim is worse than hurting the Jews. Wow. According to the Torah, it's worse.
You compared this to loan sharking.
It's worse than loan sharking. Loan sharking is something that was very common when I was growing up. Yeah. That's what the mafia did. Yeah. The main money that the mafia made was loan sharking. Guess what? The mafia has shut down loan sharking. They all started cash advance businesses.
It has a beautiful face, is what you're saying.
Listen, it's a legal way, and you can even have an office. It doesn't have to be the back of the alley. It doesn't have to be in Joey's garage.
Now, to the mafia, the struggling businesses used to go to them and beg them for money too.
Now they open merchant cash. So now the Jewish merchant cash advance business that looks like it used to be a kollel, that used to look like it used to be a Bachurim Yeshiva. The next door neighbor is the mafia, because they're both in the same business. And guess what? The Attorney General in New York has already fined them nearly $2 billion for their usury, for their unethical businesses. Bloomberg has come out with multiple articles, a whole series of articles about the industry, where they caught the heads of merchant cash advance businesses that unfortunately in some cases were Jewish and that were associated with the mafia to such an extent that they would send the mafia hitmen to go scare the customers that didn't want to pay back the money or didn't have the money to pay. Right. So when I say they're colleagues, it's not just a joke. They literally have become colleagues. They literally have become business partners. Mm-hmm. This is a disaster of all disasters that no one wants to talk about. It's a poison within our community, and it's flourishing over the last 10 years. I already heard about the cash advance industry when I was on Wall Street over 20 years ago. I knew it was bad back then. It only got worse over time. In the last 10 years, some of the leaders in the cash advance industry have become publicly traded companies, meaning they're multi-billion-dollar companies. Some of them have become major hedge funds or closed-end funds, and literally they have major dealings. So not all of them are big. It's very easy to open a cash advance company. But some of them realize that there's other opportunities that this opens for them, so it's not enough for them to commit one evil. So now some of them are opening sister companies that they pretend are not associated, which are debt settlement companies. Mm-hmm. So it's not enough for them to rip the guy off once. They know he's not going to have money. So what are they going to do? We need to still make money out of him. So what we're going to do, we're going to open a company that's called for debt settlement. So after he can't pay back or he wants to settle, there's another way for us to make fees. So they open debt settlement companies. And literally the evil is just continuing to grow. Some have started funds where they collect money from investors saying, we're going to collect your money and we're going to give you guaranteed 40, 50, 60, 70% interest. How could they guarantee it? Because they're charging the people 3,000% interest. So they're starting hedge funds to lend money to people. All types of things. This is just a cancer that's growing, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon because of the law. But at the very least, if we could warn some people before they get into too deep into this, hopefully we could help them.
Wow. What message do you have for funders and brokers in this industry?
If you want to have any chance whatsoever of going to heaven, any remote chance for heaven, you have to leave the business as soon as possible, shut it down, don't sell it, don't give it to anybody else, shut it down as if it never existed, and hopefully you'll make enough money from your next venture that's ethical to pay back all the damage that you've caused. That's the only chance you have, because even if you keep Shabbat, even if you give tzedakah, doesn't matter if you give $1 billion a day in tzedakah. If all that money came from stolen money, which is what this business is considered, then guess what? You're never going to enter Gan Eden. Why? Because when you go up to Shamayim, when you have gezel on your hands, when you have stolen money, it's called damim. You have blood on your hands, and no one is allowed to go to Gan Eden with blood on their hands. Now again, people could say, "Oh, you're this, you're fanatic, you're extreme, you're this." Fine. You don't agree with what I'm saying? Read the Teshuvah. Read the halachic Teshuvah. Prove it wrong. Prove it wrong. You want to prove it wrong? By all means. But one thing I would say is, especially for the Jewish people that consider themselves frum, before you eat, you determine whether the kashrut is good enough for you. Before you marry, you decide whether the shidduch is good enough for you. Before you buy property, you decide whether the property is a good investment for you. How are you allowing yourself to go into an industry without knowing that the halacha permits you to do this evil? Because what you're putting on the line is not just your business career. It's not just money. It's your olam haba. If there's even a 1% chance that I'm right, and I know I'm 100% right, because again, that's the Torah. But let's say, according to the doubters, there's a 1% chance that I'm right. That means that every single person that's in this business, whether he's a broker, an owner, even if he's a secretary, or she's a secretary in the business, anyone that's helping this business in any way, they all lost their olam haba. And on top of it, they're bringing a Holocaust to Misled. This, from my perspective, I already said this when I first started talking about it. I did a speech in Israel. I did a speech in a whole series of speeches in New York, maybe about 6-7 years ago. I told them back then, and I'll say it again. This is bringing the next Holocaust, and it's bringing it to America. Why? Because you're destroying what's most dear to them. At the end of the day, we're just visitors. You can call yourself American as much as you want, American Jew, American African, whatever you want to call yourself. At the end of the day, Am Yisrael is a visitor wherever they are.
Right.
The nations, the number one most dear thing to them is their money.
Correct.
You're destroying it. You're ruining it with this business. For your benefit, guess what? One day they're going to wake up. One day they're going to wake up and they're going to realize it's you. And guess what? All of us will suffer as a result of it. And that's why Rav Landau say someone that does this business is considered din rodef. It's considered as if he's trying to kill the Jewish people. So this is not a small problem. And I've been trying to speak about this for years in all different ways. And like I said, Baruch Hashem, we've helped some people, but it's not even scratching the surface.
Have you ever spoken to people who lost everything, which their families were destroyed from this?
Yes, of course. Yeah. I've spoken to both sides. I spoke to people that are brokers in the business, left the business. I've spoken to people that have gotten hurt from this business, still being hurt from this business because they're in the middle of loans.
What does it psychologically do to a person who is like trapped in this?
Once, if you're talking about the customer is wants revenge. The customer wants revenge. In so many words, the common denominator among all customers, all people that are in essence fell for this, they all want revenge. They all feel like someone took advantage of them. They want revenge. This is why many of them are very, at some point, they speak about it, either to news outlets or to anyone's going to listen to them. And they want revenge. Why? Because they feel like somebody robbed their house in open daylight. It wasn't like, you stole it behind their back. So they feel like you fooled them. So a lot of people want revenge. This is what breeds anti-Semitism. This is what anti-Semitism, at its core, this is what it is. This is what happens.
The question is, where you have to put more, emphasis. Do you put more emphasis on education and bringing awareness to the clients, to the customer, the struggling business, so he knows that this is, I understand you're desperate and everything, or you warn the people not to do it? Which gets more of a...
listen, from my speeches and from what I do, I try to warn both sides at the same time. anyone that listens to my shulim, especially the ones that discuss this topic, and I bring it up, even a short version of it once in a while anyway, just to make sure it's not lost in the in the mix. Anyone that listens to it automatically will learn that it's not good to be a customer of it, and it's not good to be a broker of it. But the truth is that our main responsibility is for the people that are bringing it, that are selling it. And the reason why is because they're the ones that are causing the most damage. To reach the rest of society to tell them that this is bad is never going to help, because there's always going to be someone that either doesn't hear you or thinks that he can beat the system, thinks that, no, but I have a way to do it, and I have a strategy, and I have this, I'll get better. There's still people that believe that you could avoid paying taxes. If you just don't file. Because they heard online that somebody could told them that if you don't do it, then no one's going to bother you. There's still people that believe that these fairy tales. So same concept here. You're not going to be able to reach everyone. The second thing is that also this is a problem that Hashem Himself is allowing us to decide on, because He is allowing it to manifest and get worse. The federal government, that should be the number one to stop this, has decided to keep their head out of it. In fact, even help them to a certain extent, help protect some of the merchant cash advance business. And they've simply decided to tell all of the states, if you want to deal with this, if you want to shut this business down, have your attorney general start filing lawsuits, individual lawsuits with different ones. And that's what some of the states are doing, which is almost impossible to fix such a industry problem that way. But the state of New York has been the most aggressive. There are some other states that are doing it, but at the end of the day, this is our problem. Why? Because if a Gentile that's from any country in the world and any nation in the world decides to hurt another Gentile, that's their problem. That's not our responsibility.
Right.
That's not our responsibility. In fact, there are 7 Noahide laws, to some extent, will allow some parts of it and forbid some parts of it. So it all depends. It's much more, it's put it this way, it's a lot easier to permit them to do it, but for us, there is no permission. So for the Jewish people to be involved in such a merciless industry gives all of us a bad name, and it's also repeating the same mistake.
It's history.
It's history repeating itself over and over again, and it never ended well for us. When people say, where was God during the Holocaust? The Chachamim that have answered this have always said, where was Am Yisrael before the Holocaust? Where was God during the Spanish Inquisition? Where were the Jewish people before the Spanish Inquisition? Where was God during the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash? Where were the Jewish people before?
It's cheshbon hanefesh is what you're talking about.
We have to wake up. At some point or another, you got to look at the person that's in the mirror and say, listen, that's me. At some point or another, we have to realize, listen, yes, there's a lot of bad things that are said about us that are not true, but this one is. Okay, so there's conspiracies and there's lies and so on. I even have Antisemites that watch my videos. They become lovers of Jews and leave being anti-Semites as a result. Why? Initially, they see my videos, they hear me rebuking my own people. They're like, oh, wow, this is an honest rabbi. He's actually bringing stuff that's true. And they say, I don't understand. Why is he saying these things? They start watching the other videos and they start realizing, wait a minute. The Jews that he's speaking about are, when he's rebuking, it's the same ones that I have a problem with, but they're not making those, they're not doing the bad things that they're doing because they're Jewish. They're doing it because they're humans. It has nothing to do with Judaism. That evil that they're doing has nothing to do with Judaism. So he also has a problem with it. The Torah has a problem with it. The rest of the Jewish people have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. And guess what? The Jewish people that he's that he's helping, and as a result they do Teshuvah, I like them too. So we actually have many people that used to be Nazis that have abandoned Nazism, Some have even converted to Judaism. Just in the last week, apparently one of the most famous public people that was a former Nazi says that our shiurim have influenced them to abandon that and to now try to build bridges between the Jewish people and the rest of the nation in a positive way rather than being a Nazi. So bringing the truth to the world by saying that we're making a mistake is the best way for, number one, for us to admit, yes, there are some people around us that are bad apples, that are acting in bad faith. But that's not Judaism. That has nothing to do with Judaism. That just has to do with personal lust that everyone has. We're concerned with the ones that are among us because that's our responsibility. We can't deny everything. We can't just say, listen, we are always perfect and everyone is ungrateful. No, listen, sometimes we screwed up and we have to fix it. That's what the Torah is for.
It's a tremendous, tremendous message. But let me ask you something. What solution do you have for small businesses who are struggling?
If a business is struggling as far as getting financing, if they're already in a situation where they're struggling but they haven't taken a merchant cash advance loan yet, they have a lot of options. Number one, if the banks don't work, they can go to friends and family. They can go to people in the community and try to make it a investment or a loan or a mixed investment worth loan to make it appealing to people. Because most businesses that need money, they don't need an unreachable amount of money. They need $50,000. They need $100,000. They need $500,000.
Right.
They don't need $5 billion. They're not X and trying to go public with a $2 trillion IPO.
Right.
They need money that's, in today's economy, is relatively easy for even one person to do. So if you have something that's good, if your business is good, I'm sure you can find an investor that's going to either lend you the money or invest into your company.
Right.
So, and you're certainly not going to put your company in jeopardy. And you say, oh yeah, but it takes time. Yes, it takes time, but I'd rather you take time and stay in business than it not take time and then you're out of business 6 months later.
And crying.
So as far as getting investors or getting friends, family to lend you the money is usually the best way. That's I would say number one. Number two, you have other options of getting money, looking at other assets that you may have. You have a mortgage, you could refinance. You have other assets that you could sell, liquidate, a car that you're not using, jewelry, all types of things that you could come up with the money.
You're saying become creative, but don't dig your own grave. Don't.
Desperate time calls for desperate measures, but this is not a desperate measure. This is stupid.
It's a suicide.
This is just simply jumping off a bridge and hoping that someone catches you. It's not a business that is known for helping its customers. It's a business that literally has entire law firms built just to fight against it. There are literally entire law firms. This is all they do, is fight against the merchant cash advance business. There's no other business that has such a thing. There's no. It's just one of those things where it's literally we're going to look back at this. And we're going to say, how did we have any of our people, even the one guy that's complete like an atheist Jew, how did we even allow him to be in it? How did society allow such a thing to exist? But this is, unfortunately, this is Sodom and Gomorrah in 2026. Some of the things that I talk about are things that, unfortunately, other rabbis don't want to speak about. And that's been one of the main things that has helped most people. And one of the topics that you mentioned is the merchant cash advance. Yeah. Because it's I remember seeing in one of your shows, I didn't see the whole thing yet, but there was one gentleman that was speaking about the issues of Kedusha, the porn addiction and things of that nature. This is one of the main topics that I've spoken about over the last 12 years. And I would say that one of the things that would... I hear a lot is that, people are shy to talk about it. I say it a little bit differently, that people are not shy to talk about it. Rabbis are shy to talk about it. People are talking about it everywhere. They're talking about it in the news. They're talking about it in the billboards. They talk about it in the street, even in the synagogue sometimes.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. But unfortunately, the teachers are uncomfortable in teaching it, and that's unfortunately one of the problems. And the same concept with cash advance or other topics, that we need someone to tell us the truth, whether it's a comfortable or uncomfortable. Sometimes you need to say things and at least give people an opportunity to decide for themselves based on the truth, without sugarcoating it, without being politically correct.
Right.
And Baruch Hashem, it's one of the things that we try to do to the best of our ability with Dat Torah. We're always obviously double checking with our rabbi to make sure that what we're saying has sources, and it's been an interesting journey, Baruch Hashem.
You're known for somebody who speaks the truth. You're known for somebody who is like, is saying it the way it is. Where does that boldness come from?
Well, my mom tells me that ever since I was a kid, I was like allergic to lies. I can't bring myself to lie. And since I was a kid, I would find lies as something that's...
it didn't resonate with you.
I didn't like it. Sometimes I would ask a question, and if I get an answer that wasn't exactly it, like somebody's putting me... I would always say something. Listen, you said something different last time. So my whole life, I've been a fighter for the truth of whatever I knew the truth to be. So one of the things that we utilized in business, for example, when we're in the investment business, is we would look for red flags in companies. Red flag either is going to create an opportunity to make money, whereas other people are not seeing what the truth really is, or red flag is that there's trouble behind the scenes and you can make money on the other way, and so you stay away from something. So this is something that I did in the business world, and it also is one of the things that got that kept me out of trouble, because in the brokerage business, especially in the 1990s and early 1980s, before I got into it, boiler rooms and brokerage firms that simply manipulated the public and convinced them to invest in things that don't exist, and churning the accounts and making unreasonable fees and so on, that was a standard. That continued into the early 2000s, and that was one of the things that I always ran away from because it was disgusting to me. Mm-hmm. So when I was working for a company called Raymond James, before I started my own firm, I was looking to leave, and there was one guy that owned a firm called me. He said, I heard you want to leave, and I'm willing to offer you $7 million to come work for us. Now, I'm a 23-year-old kid. $7 million is a lot of money. That was the first year I made $1 million. So it was $7 million, a lot more than I have. He says, okay, well, what's the deal? He said, well, bring your clients, and I'll give you $7 million in any way you want. You want it in cash in a box, you want it in whatever you want, just bring your clients. I said, okay, but what's the deal? He's like, well, the main thing is you need to buy our investments, what we recommend. I said, what are your investments? And he gave me a couple of things. And within 30 seconds, I told him, no, thank you. This is all garbage. He goes, well, why not? I'm like, these are all fake companies. He goes, well, what do you care? You're going to make $7 million. I said, no, I'm not a thief. I'm not a thief. If somebody gave me their money to invest, I'm going to invest it. Mm. So that was a test that I had apparently, at that age. So even before becoming religious and anything else, there was a certain sense of, morals that my parents raised me with. Right.
So I was going to ask you, what kind of values shaped your young
my father always told me that, you can make money in two ways. You can make it the right way. You can make it the wrong way. The wrong way, you'll make a lot of money very, very quickly, but you won't last long. The right way, you won't make a lot of money right away, but you'll last a long time, you'll make a lot more. So these types of things and hard work and already starting to work and helping the family at a very, very young age, understanding how difficult it is to make a living, to struggle, to get kicked out of houses and try to rebuild and lose and make all of these different things, that struggle, like the name of the podcast, that shaped a certain character that, to me, to steal from anybody else, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Right. And I just, again, the truth came naturally. But once I realized that my truth was biased when it came to personal issues, because I didn't know anything about Torah, I started realizing that I have to adjust. And even though it was difficult, and even though it means that I have to change major things, it is what it is. If you're either going to be full of truth, or you're going to be living a lie. 99% truth is 100% lie.
Yeah.
So that came along with it also. And for me, once I started teaching Torah, it was as if, Moshe Rabbeinu said it. This is what I'm saying. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm not giving you what I think. I don't care about what I think. It doesn't matter to me. That's why one of the main things I've always asked my rabbi to do is that anytime we learn something, to give me the source so I can go check it, so I can go name it for people, so they can look at it themselves and see, this is not my opinion.
Right.
So if somebody has a problem with it, they could go to the Rambam, they could go to the Rav Ashi, they could go to Rabbi Akiva, they go to Moshe Rabbeinu, go complain to them.
Right.
And if you really want to complain to Hashem, bechavod, maybe I'll call you and have a personal meeting with you. But your problem is not with me.
Right.
So that's the just beautiful thing. Yeah, so I'm just giving you the information. And I think that that has helped a lot of people that are looking to improve. They want to improve. There are certain people that they don't want to hear it. Right. They want to live an illusion, and the message is not for them. Because if you're not ready, if you're not receptive, nothing's going to help you.
Right.
But Baruch Hashem, there's many people that are interested, and we try.
But let me ask you, what did Wall Street teach you about people?
Well, I think one of the biggest things I've seen in my life when it comes to Wall Street and the world of money is that money makes people do strange things, and that everyone has their own character, but they're not going to allow themselves to fully express their character until they have a lot of money in front of them.
So they say it amplifies the person. So if the person is a good person,
exactly,
it will amplify that. And if the person is bad,
it's unfortunately, it's people think that money changes people. It doesn't change people. He was always that. He was just pretending to be nice until he got the check, until he has the house, until he has the position. Now that he has the position, he's really expressing who he really is. Wow. And unfortunately, this is one of the things that you see in every aspect of life. When money makes people do some horrible things, if they don't have that, at least that decent foundation to begin with.
Right. Let me ask you an interesting question. What is the biggest struggle you had to overcome, when becoming a Baal Teshuvah?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is just an adjustment of life where, your personal opinion is no longer by default right. Because being successful, being the boss, being the one that, hired and trained over 120 people and helped them become millionaires and so on, or at least, some of them, by default, you're right. No one can tell you what to do.
Right.
So now, when you have Hashem and you have his messengers, all the rabbis, and you start realizing, I have to put my head down to Da'at Torah, I have to realize that I don't know everything. I'm not right by default. It doesn't matter what I have or don't have. And so that was the first big thing, is that you have to humble yourself.
Right. What you're saying is that the Torah humbled you in a way that you couldn't recognize yourself.
No, I mean, it was a completely different person. I mean, of course, the struggle of life, helped that humility become fast forwarded. But I think that just knowing that you're not right by default, I think is one of the most important things. Aside from that, it's also just changing your life structure where, money is not necessarily the top priority in life anymore. Yes, we need material in order to live in this world, to do good things, and so on and so forth. But it's no longer the priority in life. There's other things that are much more important. There's life beyond life. So these are some of the things that were very, very different. It was a very big adjustment for me.
Right.
And as far as like the mitzvot, keeping Shabbat and holidays and so on, it wasn't so difficult once I decided that I want to do it.
Right.
Once I decided that it's not that I want to do it, it's that I also have to do it. Because if it's true, the whole thing is true.
Right. You can't
if it's false, then what am I doing anything for?
Right. You can't be half pregnant.
No.
Yeah. It's either you're in or you're out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, what do you think is the greatest gift that we Jews have?
Well, as far as gift that Am Yisrael has, I mean, I think that the special siyata dishmaya that Hashem gives us in the things we put our mind to, where each Jew has a special nitzotz, a special spark in them that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts, that gives us extraordinary levels of success in what we put our minds to, but that also works in a positive and a negative way.
Right.
And you see throughout history how the greatest influence that the world has seen has always come from the Jewish people, both in a positive and negative. So we have Moshe Rabbeinu, but lehavdil milyon avdalot, we also have Yoshke. Right. We have Shlomo HaMelech, but we also have his grandson Nebuchadnezzar that destroyed the Beit HaMikdash. Yeah. We have tzaddikim like the Rambam, but we also have Karl Marx with the communism and all the craziness that came from there. So there's a lot of good that came from Am Yisrael, and that's what the Arizal told Rabbi Chaim Vital, that when he was tested early in his life, he was told that he's going to have to make a choice, either staying in the business world. Apparently, he was an alchemist. He found a way to make gold from nothing, and he's either going to pick the Torah or he's going to stay in business. And he says, if you would have stayed in business, you would have turned into the worst person in history, worse than Haman. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to, instead of that, you're going to be, the Gedol Ador, you're going to be a tzaddik, and so on and so forth. So each, Jewish neshama has that spark in it. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu put each one of us to do good. But we still have our own choice. And Kol midei shamayim chutz me'ira shamayim. Everything is from Hashem, it's from heaven, except the fear of heaven. Whether you're going to listen to Hashem or not, that's your choice. The spark is there. The potential is there. How are you going to amplify it? That's going to be your choice.
Wow. Let me ask you a personal question. Yeah. Who was there for you when you needed it most?
I would say that out of all of the people that I've ever met and all the different things that I've been, there's only 3 people that have been there for me. My mother, my mother and my father, it's in essence one. They were the, there through thick and thin. Mm-hmm. My wife and my Rav Ephraim. The rest of the people that I've ever met, known, and so on, there's always a line.
There's acquaintances.
There's even people that consider themselves good friends, there was always a line that people weren't willing to cross. I remember that this is about maybe 12 years ago. I had an apartment in New York. We moved already to Florida. And my apartment was worth somewhere around $4 million. But I had a issue with it, and it was being foreclosed on. And all I needed to come up with was $100,000. It's a $4 million apartment. It had something like $2.7 million equity. But I had a limited amount of time. All I need is $100,000 to save this house. Now, I had many millionaire friends and billionaire clients and all types of things. Now, I can't call everybody, but I called a few people that I knew that for them, $100,000 is like a penny. Yeah. Guess what? No one lent me the money. One guy that I know, that when we used to do business together, each transaction would be no less than $1 million. Like it was usually $1 million, $2 million, $4 million. That's the type of business he does. He makes $120 million a year. So $10 million a month is what he makes. When I asked him, listen, I'm in a jam. I only have a week to come up with $100,000 to save my house. It's my house. Yeah. It's the only thing I have left. Yeah. It's $4 million. I'm going to sell it, and I'll give you the money. I'll give you that. I'll give you whatever you want. Right. No, you know what? Listen, it's just, I'm too busy right now. This is just going to get in the way of things. It's going to confuse me. That was his answer. And one guy that I asked, I helped get him a job that he made, his starting salary was $500,000 a year. I helped get him that job. and get him out. He was in retirement. And he wanted to go back into the business world, and he wanted me to help him. I helped him analyze and pretty much present himself that he's to be the CEO for this company. And long story short, he got the job making $500,000, $600,000 a year. And he was already very well off. When I asked him for the money, all of a sudden he was financially tied up. Long story short, when push came to shove, every one of the friends, business associates, whatever you want to call it, there was always a line they weren't willing to cross. But the few people that there is no limit, there is no time, there is no nothing. There's simply we're one. It's like I said, my dear Rabbi Ephraim, my dear wife, and my parents. And that's what it came down to in life. And again, for anyone that wants to evaluate themselves and thinks that I'm wrong, please show me how I'm wrong. But it's just the way it is.
Wow. A final question.
Yeah.
Who is your role model?
My Rav.
Wow. What kind of impact did this man make in your life?
I think it's a combination of things, but I think it's just, being dedicated, being selfless, and just doing good for the sake of good. Not really looking for recognition or notoriety or fame or any of that stuff. And also, the more I learned Torah, the more I realized that no matter what I do, I'll never be able to repay him. Just like no one that I help do Teshuvah, it doesn't matter how much they donate or how much they do, they can never pay me back. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because, even if I, give Rabbi Ephraim $1 billion a second, it's never going to be the equivalent of 1 second in heaven that I'll ever get as a result of doing Teshuvah. What
he brought you, what he made out of you today, has no price. There's
nothing that you could ever pay back for it. It's not something you could buy with money.
Right.
I was on a straight path to Gehenom. Now, BeEzrat HaShem, I have a chance of going to heaven. So it's polar opposites. One is zero chance. One is I have a chance. I'm going in the right direction. I'm trying my best. At least I know the truth. I know where to go. I know the direction. So that's the thing. That has no price. And that's what people don't understand. The importance of helping people do Teshuvah is not just when it comes down to secular people that were like me, that are in the business world, because in our generation, there's so many people confused in every community, in the Frum community, in the Hasidic community, right, in the Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Israel, America, the UK, wherever you go, en bait en bomit. There's no, every house needs something. And if we truly understand the significance of what it means to have a share in Olam Haba, all of us would start doing something about it, because there's a lot of people like me out there. There's a lot that don't know what they're talking about, that are, driving on Shabbat and working, or even some people that have a kippah on, but are in this business of merchants, cash, and vents. They think that they're frum, but in reality, they're causing, much more problems than they are doing good. So I think if more people start realizing that we need to do kiruv, that's authentic, that doesn't sugarcoat. It simply tells people, this is what Torah says. Like it or not like it, it's not my problem. I'm giving you the information. Decide accordingly. Choose wisely. I think the more we support it, the more we publicize it, the more Am Yisrael will have a better chance of, having a better future. Because
it's a big zechus for you.
It's not easy out there, but I think it could get easier than where we're at.
Tremendous, tremendous work. This episode made us see the world in a little different light. It definitely encouraged us to think more deeply about the choices we made.
Yes, right.
The choices we make. We have bechira, and it's in our hand, and we have to make the good choices. We have to be bocher b'toiv, right? In business and in life.
Yes.
Unbelievable stuff. I want to thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And for the awareness that you brought and the education that you brought to us today.
Bezrat Hashem, and anyone that wants to see the Teshuvah that I mentioned to you, I'll send it to you. The link.
You
can read it. You can read it to their rabbi.
Absolutely.
It's a very, very important thing to at least, even if you want to be in this business, at least know what it entails. Wow. At least know what it entails. Be educated. That's the least we could ask for. And BeEzrat HaShem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have mercy on us and give us the hוכחות to overcome this obstacle and to overcome all the other obstacles, to do Kiddush Hashem instead of Chilul Hashem, to do good, to be a light to the nation, to be a light to each other. And BeEzrat HaShem, may we all do Teshuvah. BeEzrat HaShem.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend. We did it. AI Rabbi is here. It's an AI model that is based on kosher Torah sources, 30 different languages that are available to you. So if you want to ask it in Spanish, in Chinese, Portuguese, whatever you want to do, it's available for you. Can you tell me about Rabbi Akiva? So it's timestamped to the shiur. You press this green button, AI Rabbi on your WhatsApp. You'll have the ability to ask questions at will. You'll be provided sources, and most importantly, you'll be able to know the truth and be able to rely on the sources.